created on how to fundraise for your first 100 Rand. We basically build the first 100 guide on three principles that we highly recommend. So the first one would be inspire, the second one is activate, and the third one is rally. So Natasha and Abila will be taking you guys through these three principles that we highly recommend, and that's in the first 100 guide. And if you still, maybe you missed the email of it, but any student that goes live on our platform, you get sent a copy. But if you would like a copy, you can request one at support@feenix.org, and we'll gladly share it with you guys. At the end of the session, we'll also be sharing our contact details. And you guys are more than welcome to pop questions in the chat box, because we will be having a Q&A later. So I'm handing over to Nabila now, who will be going through the first principle, which is called inspire.
Thank you so much, Alzon. So when it comes to the first principle, I just want to remind everyone that this can be found on page 6 of your first 100 guide. So inspire, what do we mean when we say inspire? Well, basically, we want you to inspire your community to connect with your personal story. Your Feenix profile acts as your campaign page. So your profile needs to present you in the best possible way because it is public facing. So a story is key to your fundraising journey. You need to write a story that you are proud of. So I just want to tell you guys a bit about my story. My name is Nabila. Growing up, my mother, an English teacher, instilled in me the value of education. It was always expected that I would go on to study further after high school, and so, following in my mother's footsteps, I pursued a BA degree majoring in English literature. However, as everyone here knows, most South African students, much like myself, cannot afford the cost of education. So when I was studying, I applied for countless bursaries and scholarships in order to pay for my university fees, but to no avail. Unfortunately, I had to take out a loan in order to pay off my fees. My university years were challenging due to the financial strain it took on my family. But in spite of this, I worked hard to maintain good grades and managed to graduate. English teacher installed. It has now been 3 years since I've graduated from university, and I still have outstanding student debt to pay. A few years ago, I was accepted into a master's program, and it actually broke my heart when I had to turn down the acceptance due to financial constraints. But my story doesn't end here. In fact, this is where my journey with Feenix begins. I wanted to do work that had a purpose. And I now get to say that I work for an amazing organization where I have the opportunity to assist students in achieving access to debt-free education. So now that I've told you a bit about my story, I just want to point out 5 key components that makes a good story. So what makes a good story? Basically, number 1 is the characters. Number 2, the setting. Number 3, the plot of your story. Number 4, the conflict that the main character has to face. And number 5, the resolution or the ending. So just going on to the next slide. Keeping these 5 key elements in mind, let's read a Feenix student story and identify the key components together. So over here we have Samkelo. Samkelo is a Feenix student who currently studies at Durban University of Technology, and Samkelo is pursuing a degree in the Bachelor of Arts. And this is the story that's on his campaign page. I just want to read it with you guys. So yeah, see, there's a couple of people that aren't on mute, so I'm just making sure that their mics are on mute. Cool, Samkelo's story, let's go through it. So he says, my story. My love for storytelling started at a very young age when I used to listen to stories that my grandmother used to tell us. No matter how many times you heard the story, it was always interesting to listen to. I would share my grandmother's stories at school. Those fictional stories taught us something about life. That's how I developed a love for telling stories. And now I want to share my stories with the world. As a young boy, I grew up in a rural area on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal. I lost my parents at a very young age. After my application to study at university was rejected 3 times, I started working as a security guard. I did this for 5 years, from 2012 to 2017. I felt so much shame, like I was not supposed to be there. I used to stand in front of the shop exit and nag people to provide proof of their purchases. Sometimes I would see my high school teachers and I would wish to be invisible. What the 5 years taught me was to reflect on myself, who I was and where I was going, and I rejected the person I saw. I decided to quit my job and use my provident fund to apply to study at a college. I thought this might increase my chances of getting into a university. My provident fund didn't even cover half of the tuition fees. I managed to finish the course and pass, but I was unable to pay the outstanding tuition fees, so I did not get my higher certificate. After completing this course in 2019, I applied at the university for the 4th time. This time, I emailed the faculty manager directly and explained my situation and the challenges I've had getting accepted. I was called for an interview 2 weeks later and was told that I passed the interview. I was over the moon when I heard the news. I called my grandfather to tell him the good news. He wasn't so happy because he knew there was no money and I was unemployed. But I still kept my faith. For the past 2 weeks, I've been up and down borrowing money to pay for my registration fee. I went to every person I thought could help. I even posted on social media asking people to help. That is how desperate I was. But I did not get any help. I had no one to turn to. A loan shark was the only way out. They helped me and I was able to register, but I still have to pay it back with 40% interest. I took it because I don't want to let go of the opportunity I have been looking for so long. Sometimes I walk 80 minutes from the city campus, which is in Durban City, to Springfield, to a place where I am temporarily residing, because I do not have the funds for transport. I believe in my dream, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to equip myself as a young film producer. With my passion, I don't only want to change my life, but my community as well. I want to kill the stereotype that if you come from a disadvantaged background, your dreams are limited. Anything is possible in life. Your tragedies don't define you or what you can become. My name is Samkelo, and I am an emerging filmmaker. But without education, my career journey is restricted. So, for those of you who might just be joining now on the live, that was Samkelo's story. Samkelo is a Feenix student from DUT. And if you guys found Samkelo's story inspirational, maybe put a clapping emoji in the chat. We'd love to see what you guys thought about Samkelo's story. So now that we've gone through his story, I just want to get back to the 5 key components that I spoke about that make a good story. So number 1 being characters. So Samkelo's story starts with an introduction as he establishes himself as the main character. He talks about his passion by elaborating on his love for storytelling. And then the second key component to a good story is the setting. Samkelo describes his environment in such vivid detail that when we read his story, we can actually picture his life. He gives us background into his earlier years, where he's from, and why he chose to study a Bachelor of Applied Arts. Samkelo also shares with us his future career goals and aspirations of sharing his stories with the world. And then the plot. What is the plot of Samkelo's story? Samkelo takes us on a journey with him by sharing the details of his life story, his loss of his parents, his rejection from the university 3 times, his work as a security guard, all of which lead up to the present point in his life as a student. The conflict, which is the 4th key component in a good story. So the conflict in Samkelo's story is not afraid to share the challenges that he faces in his personal life with us. His story embodies determination, grit, and resilience. Because he is not afraid to be emotional and vulnerable, potential funders will empathize with his past and be inspired to invest in his future. So, what is the resolution of Sankelo's story? Sankelo ends up his story by speaking directly to his community. But throughout his story, he maintains an optimistic attitude towards his goals, and he also ends with this positive attitude. So, in the end, he ties his story together and grounds it in the present moment. So, now that you've learned about the 5 key components of a good story, we encourage you to write your own using the tips we've just shared with you. But I want to leave you with these words of encouragement. Always remember this: no one can be you. Tell your story, share your hopes and dreams, and inspire others to make a donation. Thank you. Now, Natasha will be taking you over the next step in the first 100 guide, which is activate. Over to you, Tash.
Thank you so much, Nabila. Sankelo's story is extremely inspirational, and thank you for taking us through those 5 important points. So now all of you on the call might be wondering, awesome, once you've now inspired your funders with your amazing story, what's next? And step 2, the second principle, is to activate. And this is extremely important. You need to give your funders the right information and tools to actually make a donation once you've inspired them with your story. So I'm going to take you through the 2 approaches of how you can ask, and then the actual art of asking. So firstly, we have the 2 approaches. The first one is private approach, all right? And the private approach is basically for somebody who maybe doesn't have social media, or maybe you're just a bit more reserved or shy. Then private approach is for you. So how the private approach works is that it's more on a one-on-one basis. So for example, maybe speaking to an aunt or a friend when you see them in person at a family braai, or maybe if you run into them at the shop. Alternatively, you can also send somebody a message on WhatsApp, right? Or maybe even an email. And this actually works extremely well because with the private approach, you can actually address a funder directly. So just as an example, we did the Sunday Marathon. Feenix partook in it. Few of our employees with 4 of our Feenix students. So we actually fundraised on those students' behalf, and we really had to do part of the fundraising. So that was a great learning curve for me. And what I saw really worked well was actually asking my aunt on WhatsApp, saying, "Hi, how are you?" And using her name directly, or "Hi, Nabila," or "Hi, Alzan." It really forces your funders to focus in that moment, focus on your message, and they feel compelled to respond. Whereas if it's a broad ask, like maybe a WhatsApp status, as you all know, you're bombarded with so much information in today's world. So it's easy for people to just pass it if you don't capture their attention. All right, and then the second approach is the public approach. So the public approach is maybe if somebody's quite active on social media, always open to getting social media platforms, and it's very comfortable just sharing their story and getting as big a reach as possible. So the public approach, you will put your ask out on social media such as Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and also, again, on WhatsApp if you would like. So on all these social media platforms, I'm sure many of you have lots of Facebook friends or Instagram followers. So you can tap into that because you never know who might be interested in sharing your story or in donating. So that's the public approach. So it's completely up to you. Maybe share in the chat with us which approach you feel would work better for you, which fundraising approach. Let us know. Maybe it's private, maybe you're more comfortable with public. Or if you can and you feel comfortable using both approaches, then why not do that? And you can reap the benefits of both. All right, so that is the 2 approaches. So once you've decided on the approach that works for you, you need to actually look at how you're going to ask people for support, ask people for donations. So we have come up with the art of asking. And this is basically, Feenix's experience over the past few years, what we have seen really works when asking funders for donations. So the first thing is the authentic and honest story, which Nabila took us through. And of course, it's all about you and your unique story, being honest and sharing that. And people will be inspired by your story and eventually buy into your dream. And once they've bought in, they will donate. So remind your funders as well that donations start at 100 Rand. That's what crowdfunding is all about, right? It's not necessarily a big amount. If somebody doesn't have a big amount, 1,000 Rand to give, they can give a donation of 100 Rand. And you can even use examples of, if 10 of my friends and family give 100 Rand each, that's 1,000 Rand in total. So it's really the essence of the word crowdfunding, right? Those small amounts coming together and making a big impact. And also don't be overwhelmed by your goal. Remember, every contribution counts. And once you get that first 100, tap yourself on the back. You should be proud of that. That is a big step in the right direction. And then also, when you're asking for donations, always include clear instructions on how to make a donation. I'm going to take you through that a bit later. And also the payment options that your funders have. I'm also going to take you through that a bit later. And then again, as I said earlier, address potential funders directly. And I also want to point out that you can also address funders directly on social media. It's not just WhatsApp. So, for example, if you do make a social media post, you can actually tag specific friends and family to either reshare your profile or to make a donation. All right, so that is the art of asking. And all of this, with all of this in mind, I just want to share a bit about my story. So when I came into Feenix originally, it was the first job and is my first job. I came in here March 2019 after studying. And of course, I had no idea what I was doing. It was my first job, and also fundraising wasn't my field of study. So it was very much, learning on the job. And what I came to realize was that fundraising is a long-term goal. So, you might get 9 no's, you might get 10 no's, but eventually that yes will come. So don't give up. I really know how it is. We speak to funders every day, and it's tough. It's really, really tough. But if you don't give up and you persevere, eventually you will get to the finish line, or at least get your first 100, which, as I mentioned, is really something to be proud of. And also know that the Feenix team has your back. We have our student engagement team, our marketing team, our systems team, and our fundraising team. And we are also fundraising on your behalf and asking for funders on your behalf. So know that you are not alone and that we are also your champion. All right. Now that you know what Inspire is and that you know that what Activate is, we have Rally. And remember that you can also refer to everything in the first 100 guide. So for example, the Rally section starts on page 24. So you can, go look at that there. And basically what is Rally, you might be asking. So Rally is when you tap into your community, right? And I'm going to tell you now who your community is. And once you've identified your community, inspired them, and activated them, you need to remember to constantly update them. Let them know how you're doing, where your goal is, and also share your progress. And that's how you'll actually get a bigger reach and really get people rallying behind you. All right. And then, as I mentioned, Rally is all about your community. And we've mentioned, Alzan's mentioned community, Nabila's mentioned the word community. So who is your community? And basically, it's all the people around you, whether virtual or in person. It could be online, as I mentioned, your Facebook friends, your Instagram followers. It might be friends or people that you've even lost contact with, but have on social media or have on your WhatsApp list, a school friend from high school. Also, maybe a work colleague. Some of you might be working part-time or may have worked previously. So tap into that network as well. Of course, your family. So your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister. So extended family, tap into their networks as well and have them spread the word for you. And then, of course, also your community at church or at mosque. Maybe they can, put a little insert about your fundraising campaign in one of the newsletters or online newsletters that can actually be emailed to everyone who attends your church or mosque. So that's how you identify your community, and then you need to, of course, rally them. And a good example of rallying was done by Lindiwe, one of our amazing students. She also used championing. So her mom actually championed her, and I won't get into too much detail about fundraising, championing fundraising, because we might have a webinar later in the year, so look out for that. But it is important to note that champion fundraising is when somebody basically fundraises on your behalf, right? So Lindiwe did this perfectly. So I'm just going to read her quote here. She says, "I sent the link of my profile to residents of Kirstenbosch, where my mother works as a domestic worker, asking them to help with donations. To my surprise, I was able to raise more than 19,000 Rand in just 2 months. I'm very grateful for the help I got from Kirstenbosch residents and friends, including the Feenix team for creating this amazing platform." So that's Lindiwe. So basically, she asked her mother to fundraise on her behalf. She told her mother about her campaign, and then her mother told her employer. And then her employer was so inspired by Lindiwe's story about her potential that she ended up telling everybody else who lived in the apartment block. And they really stood behind Lindiwe, all began contributing, and all these contributions made one big sum. And that really got on the way for her fundraising journey. So that's a lovely example of just tapping into your community and rallying your community to all donate and also share your story. And then this next slide is just, so on the left, there's an example of an ask, just to kind of, show you a practical example of how you could potentially word your ask, whether you send this out on WhatsApp or social media, or via email, or if you're speaking to people in person. And that example is on page 10 of the first 100 guide, so please go look at it there or refer to it there. And it basically has all the elements of the art of asking, which I took you through earlier. And then also just on the right-hand side of your screen, Kamogelo's thank you to his funders, his ask to funders on social media, also just very nice, sweet and short, has all the relevant information. And also, he asked for donations, but he also asked people to retweet. And that's how you really rally your community, is if they can't make a donation, or on top of making a donation, they can actually share your profile, and your profile can have a bigger reach. All right. And then, this is very important. This basically closes the whole communication loop with your funders. And it's basically like the cherry on the cake. Very, very important to remember to thank your funders. So, once your funders have donated, whether it's 100 Rand or 1,000 Rand, and whether they know you personally or don't know you personally, it's very important for them to feel valued. They need to know that that donation made a difference in your life or had a positive impact. So that is why it's very important to thank your funders, such as the example by Lungi here, how he thanked his funders on Twitter, and also told them, how's his fundraising goal doing, keeping them updated, because they are inspired by your story, they care about your story, and they want you to succeed. So very important to keep them updated. And we also, as the fundraising team, ask you for a student thank you letter, so please send that to us as soon as you get a donation. Because we send that to your funders on your behalf. And we have seen with the student thank you letters that every now and then there will be a funder that donates a second time, right? Maybe when they get their new salary in the new month and have disposable income again. So that thank you letter actually prompts them to make that second donation. So very, very important to do that as well. All right. And then, last but not least, I am almost done speaking. I'm sure you're all tired of hearing my voice, but we are almost there. I'm going to almost hand back to Alzan. But I first want to take you through the step-by-step donation guide. So we have heard your cries, we have heard your frustrations, and we completely understand. So we decided to create the step-by-step donation guide, which is lovely and visual. It's got screenshots and it's literally got all the necessary details. It is on page, well, starts on page 15 of the first 100 guide, so you can refer to it there. But I just wanted to highlight a few points with you today. And that's basically that you can take that guide, read through it, and then explain it to your funders, potential funders, or you can actually, share it directly with them via email or screenshots of it over WhatsApp if they need any assistance. And then also know that we are constantly working to make the donation process as efficient for you and your funders. So we're constantly working on that. And then lastly, just let your funders know it's very important for them to know that they do need to register and log in order to donate. However, you need to remind them that it is quick and it is easy. And if they have any technical issues which can complicate the process, then we are here for you and for them. They can contact us at support@feenix.org and tell us whatever their issue is, and we will help them right away. Alternatively, you can let us know what the issue is, or even share their email address with us so we can contact them directly. However, very important that they must have given you permission to share their information with us. And then we will take care of that issue right away and make sure that you get as many donations as possible. So that is it from my side. I'm now going to hand back to Alzaan, and she is going to tell us a bit more about the student activity score and about how it's all up to you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for properly explaining the 3 principles out of our first 100 guide. So guys, everything that was mentioned here today, you can find in the first 100 guide. I know it's a very long document, but guys, it's so easy to follow. So have a read through it. If you need to rewatch this webinar, then please do so that you are able to successfully fundraise using our platform. So like Natasha said, I'll be telling you guys a bit about the student activity score today. So the student activity score is basically something that we built on our side, because one of the main reasons is because we know that not everyone has access to the same networks and communities that would be able to help them fundraise or crowdfund. So we have a Feenix pool fund. So the more active you are on your Feenix profile, for example, when sharing your profile, make sure that you are logged in on your Feenix profile, and then you only share. When we send you surveys, complete those surveys, and you get extra student activity points. And also, please remember to send in your thank you notes, like Natasha mentioned, how important those are. Please do remember that you need to send it in, and on top of that, you also get student activity scores or points for sending in those thank you notes. Then also our student ambassadors, they also get student activity points. And of course, if you participate in anything, so if we perhaps have a video that we want to do, or we reach out to you to do a news article or a radio interview, you get student activity points for that. So that is really great. And like I said, this is because we know that not everyone has access to the same networks and communities that would be able to help them fundraise. And all of this information is on page 22 and 23. So guys, if you have any more questions, we'll gladly answer it now in our Q&A session, which is what we'll be heading to now. So we are heading into our Q&A session shortly, but first we have a very special guest here with us today. So we have our head of fundraising here with us today. Her name is Nyasha, so she'll be introducing herself shortly. So over to you, Nyasha.
Wow, this is so amazing. I feel like I just went on a refresher myself. just listening to these ladies speaking about inspiring, activating, and also finding that activity score. I also want to be part of the student network right now to get funding for myself as well. I'm so glad to be in this session with you guys. I am very happy, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining this session. I see a lot of you are in the session right now, and that just shows how much you're yearning to start your fundraising journey, and also how important you know it is to find your tuition fees. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being with us today. I've been in the fundraising space for about a decade now, and I must say that it never gets easier, but I am one of the most lucky people on the face of this planet because I love this job. This job has a lot of rejection. This job has a lot of no's along the way. But when that yes comes and that first 100 actually comes in, it is the most exhilarating feeling that one can ever feel. You can get so many people within your community saying no at a particular time, but that one person that says yes, and it usually comes from a person that you least expect. And it could be that uncle that you haven't seen in ages, and they end up giving you the first 100. And I just want to encourage you guys and say that from a Feenix perspective, we believe in you. The crowdfunding platform was built for students. It had students in mind when we built it. And it came from us understanding that access to education shouldn't be dependent on wealth. It came from us believing in that. And it came from us believing in students. It came from us thinking that students can do this. They can take the journey of fundraising for themselves. But it also came from us believing in people that are out there. The community out there is also quite great. They want to support you. They want to help you. You need to just adapt some of the things that Natasha and Nabila were talking about today, the things that Elzan was talking about today. We've got a fantastic student engagement team on our side that is always there to help you guys. And Nabila and Natasha from the marketing and fundraising side, they're always there to help you guys as well. We believe in you. We believe that you can take this fundraising journey forward. Don't look at the fact that you've got 100,000 as debt right now. Just go and find that first 100. Go and find that first 100 Rand that comes in and take it each chunk at a time. It's like eating a pie. A pie, you only eat one bite at a time. You don't eat the whole thing. You don't put the whole thing in your mouth, right? So from that perspective, just take it one bite at a time and take it 100 Rand at a time. My dad always is a soccer fan, and I'm not going to talk about the team that he supports right now because we know what happened during this weekend, over the weekend, with the UEFA Champions League, right? But he always says to us, the ball is round. So whenever there's 3 minutes left and his team is kind of down, he says, the ball is round, the ball is round. You never know where it's going to go. You never know where it's going to roll to. So you might get from this point until November without your fees being paid in full. But just remember that the ball is round. By the time you get to December, there might just be somebody that believes in you as much as we do and will make that payment. And that activity score that Elzan was talking about, it increases your chances of you getting funding either from the pool fund or getting funding from corporates. And everything, if you apply every detail that you've learned today, then you'll be able to successfully fundraise for your education. Thank you so much, and much love and kudos to everybody that's on this call. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being the students that you are, the resilient students that you are. I'm absolutely inspired by each and every one of you that is on our platform. I'm inspired by the stories that I read. I'm inspired by what you become when you leave your institutions. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the end of this year and just seeing each and every one of you raising funds for their education. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Nyasha. So now we'll be heading into our Q&A session. So guys, we had quite a few technical issues or questions, with regards to profiles not being live. So our moderation process takes about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on, and it's highly depending on whether or not you uploaded the correct documents. So if your documents that you uploaded were incorrect, then your profile won't go live. So make sure that you check your emails to see, especially after you've created your Feenix profile, make sure that you check your emails to see whether or not you've been contacted by a support team, because they would request either you need to update your story, perhaps you sent in the wrong fee statement, or your ID isn't certified properly. Just make sure to check your emails so that your profile can go live within the 2 to 3 week period. But like I said, it is highly dependent on you uploading the correct documents. And unfortunately, we can't make any profiles live if we don't have the correct documents. So please make sure to upload the correct documents. Otherwise, your profile won't go live, and it can take much longer because we don't have the correct documents. And also one other thing, we will be having a in-depth webinar about your Feenix profile, so you guys can watch out for that webinar, which should happen. I can't really give you guys a date, but it should happen maybe next month or so. So just watch up for that, and then we'll go into depth about the documents that you need to upload and your story. Like Bila explained it so beautifully today on how you need to write your story, but please follow our guideline. We know that not every story is the same, but there are certain aspects that you can take from what we mentioned today, those 5 characteristics Nabila mentioned, and of course make sure to make use of the tips given in the first 100 guide. So if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to pop it in the chat box and we will gladly answer it for you. There was another question that Natasha will be answering. So the question is from Fakizile. And the question is, what can you do if your social media friends are mostly high school and university students, just people who don't have money to donate, basically? It is hard to keep reposting your campaign if your audience isn't financially capable. So I'll be handing over to Natasha, who's in our fundraising team, and she will gladly answer that question.
Thanks so much, Alzan, and thank you so much, Fakazile, for that question. So it's a very, very good question. I would say that you just need to be creative in your strategy when deciding who you're going to ask. So if it can't be your social media platforms, because as you've mentioned, it's still friends, maybe they're not working yet, they're still studying just like you are, maybe look at emailing people. So maybe emailing my old school teacher or a current lecturer that you know would be interested or can share your profile on your behalf. Or maybe even then asking your mom or your dad or your uncle or your aunt to ask their friends and their extended family who are working and who do have some kind of a disposable income. So it's just about being creative in the way that you ask. And then maybe if it's not your direct networks, but looking at your broader networks, so friends of friends or family of family, and trying to approach it that way.
Thank you so much for that, Natasha. So there was also another question that was asked about the video, whether or not it's compulsory to upload a YouTube video in order for your profile to be complete. So the answer is no, you don't need to upload a YouTube video as long as you have your story. But a video is always nice to have. Would be able to inspire your community and to get them to get to know you a bit better, because it's almost like face-to-face. And we know everyone switched over to online, or most people, especially where we at now with the current pandemic. So please feel free to upload those videos. We've seen it really works well when students upload YouTube videos, but it is not compulsory at all. So I'm just going through the questions and then we will just answer them in between. So one of the other questions we have is from Auntie. So I would like to know if one was offered a bursary to settle student debt first year, is it possible to be assisted in continuing with the studies? So I am assuming you mean that if you have a bursary but you still owe your university fees, if you can still create a profile on Feenix. So if you meet the requirements of being on our platform, so the requirements are you need to be a South African, you need to be a South African citizen, permanent residency, or asylum or refugee seeking status student studying at a public university with a family household income of below 600,000 rand. And if you owe the university either historical debt or current debt, you can still create a profile on Feenix as long as you owe the university. So even if you've graduated, but you still owe the university, you haven't been able to receive your certificate, you can create a profile on the Feenix platform at www.feenix.org, and then you can start fundraising for your outstanding university fees. And then there was a few, we'll just do about 2 more questions, and then we will conclude the webinar. But guys, if you still have any more questions, please feel free to just send us an email. So there was a question about the student activity points. So the student activity points you get when you go live, when you complete surveys, when you do like perhaps you participate in a video series or campaign that we're doing. So just watch out or check your emails regularly to see if we maybe haven't reached out to you. And all of this is explained in the first 100 guide on page 22 to 23. And like I mentioned earlier, everything that we said today is in the first 100 guide. So guys, please go through it. I know it might seem like a very long document, but believe me, it's completely worth it. So if you need a copy of the first 100 guide and you are a live student, please send us an email at support@feenix.org. So we will do one more question. Let me see who's the lucky person. Okay, so there's a really interesting question from Tina. How do I alert people from the social media platform that Feenix is not a scam? I mean, I once posted and shared my profile, but they are so skeptical and insecure. I think what you can do, Tina, is refer those people to our platform. Refer them to Feenix. Send them the website link or our platform link, and feel free to tell them that we are basically sponsored by Standard Bank. That is one of our partners, and obviously if you are affiliated with the bank, we definitely need to tick all the boxes to make sure that we can successfully fundraise. And I mean, we fundraise over 77 million rand from the Feenix community, which includes students communities, and it surely works. And believe me, we are a trust, so each and every cent that has been fundraised on our platform has been paid out to the universities. So we don't pay out any fees directly to students, so it goes directly into the university's account, and then it gets allocated to your university account. So okay, I think we can do one more question. So it's from Nakwanda. I have not received my degree due to outstanding fees, and yet I'm doing my postgrad. And I still have outstanding university fees. Will Feenix be able to assist me? Like I mentioned earlier, if you meet the 3 requirements, please feel free to create a profile on the platform. We have 3 requirements. Go on our website. It's www.feenix.org and see how easy it is to create a Feenix profile as long as you upload the correct documents. I know we had quite a few questions about technical questions about profiles not being made live. But like I mentioned earlier, guys, it's very important for you to upload the correct documents in order for your profile to go live. So guys, that is the end of our session. I just want to thank you all so much for joining. It's truly been an honor. And then I also just want to thank my co-hosts for, the inspiring words to you guys, and for Tash to just activate those students with all the tips that they need to know. And everything today that was said is in the first 100 guide. If you guys need a copy, please feel free to email us at support@feenix.org, or you can contact us on WhatsApp on 063-968-7544. Or even if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to our support team, and we will gladly get back to you. So thank you so much, guys, for joining. It's truly been an honor. We will be having more webinars throughout the year, so please feel free to join us. And then you guys get to learn more about our platform. So thank you so much, each and everyone. This webinar will also be on our Facebook page live, so you guys can always come back and rewatch it or share it with some of your peers if they've been interested in wanting to learn more about Feenix, but maybe they're still unsure. Please feel free to share this with them. And thank you so much for the lovely comments, guys. We loved it. We can't wait to have you guys with us again. I hope you guys have a lovely day further. And remember, if you have any more questions, please feel free to contact us at support@feenix.org, or send us a WhatsApp message on 063-968-7544. Thank you, guys. I hope you have a lovely day further. Bye.